The night air was thick with tension, the streets of Washington, D.C. buzzing with the quiet hum of late-night traffic. Officer Daniel Carter had been patrolling these roads for over a decade, but tonight, something felt different. A strange weight sat in his chest, an unshakable instinct whispering that trouble was just around the corner. Then, it happened. A sleek black sedan blew through a red light at an intersection just ahead of him. The vehicle didn't slow, didn't hesitate, just cruised through as if traffic laws didn't apply. Carter flicked on his lights, the red and blue beams flashing through the darkness. His siren let out a sharp burst, signaling the driver to pull over. The sedan came to a slow, deliberate stop along the curb. Carter approached the driver's side cautiously, his boots crunching against the asphalt. As he reached the window, it rolled down with a smooth, almost practiced motion. The driver sat there, his face shadowed under the dim streetlights, a crisp suit hugging his form. There was something about his stillness, his demeanor, too calm, too confident. "License and registration," Carter said, his voice firm but professional. The man let out a soft chuckle, shaking his head slightly. "Do you know who I am, officer?" His tone was smooth, laced with amusement, as if this was all just a minor inconvenience. A joke he was in on, but Carter wasn't. Carter had heard that line too many times before. Every rich executive, every politician's son, every entitled businessman seemed to think their name carried immunity. He kept his face neutral, his grip tightening on his flashlight. "Sir, I don't care who you are. You ran a red light. Now license and registration." The smirk faded slightly, but the arrogance remained. With an exaggerated sigh, the man reached toward the glove compartment. Carter watched every movement closely, his instincts screaming at him to stay alert. "You're making a mistake," the man muttered under his breath as he retrieved his documents. Carter felt a chill run down his spine. The hesitation, the cryptic warning. Something was off. He had no idea just how right he was. Carter took the documents and flicked on his flashlight to read the driver's ID. As his eyes scanned the name, his breath caught in his throat. James Holloway, the U.S. Attorney General. A cold wave of realization hit him. This wasn't just any man. This was one of the most powerful figures in the country. A man who shaped laws, decided legal battles, and held influence over the entire justice system. Carter forced himself to remain composed. His training drilled into him that the law applied to everyone, regardless of title. Swallowing the rising tension in his gut, he looked Holloway straight in the eye. "Mr. Holloway, I don't care what title you hold. You broke the law." The smirk returned, more pronounced now, dripping with condescension. "And what do you plan to do? Arrest me?" That arrogance, that absolute certainty that power made him untouchable, ignited something in Carter. He had seen too many people manipulate the system, too many officers pressured to look the other way. Not tonight. "Step out of the vehicle." The smirk vanished. "Excuse me?" Holloway's voice carried the sharp edge of someone who wasn't used to being told what to do. "I said, step out of the vehicle. Now." For the first time, Holloway hesitated. His hand twitched toward his suit pocket. Carter's instinct screamed. His training took over. "Hands where I can see them!" Carter's voice rang through the night as he drew his gun, leveling it at Holloway's chest. Time seemed to slow. The streetlights cast eerie shadows over the scene, the flashing police lights reflecting in Holloway's widening eyes. "I was just—" Holloway started, his voice uneven. "Do not move!" Carter barked, his fingers steady on the trigger guard. Adrenaline surged through his veins. One wrong move and this situation could spiral into something far worse. Something that would make national headlines for all the wrong reasons. Holloway's jaw clenched, his lips pressing into a thin line. Slowly, reluctantly, he raised his hands above the steering wheel. His body was rigid, his breathing uneven. The weight of the moment settled between them, thick as fog. "This is absurd," Holloway hissed through his teeth. "I was reaching for my badge." Carter didn't lower his weapon. You don't make sudden moves, not when you're acting like a suspect. The red and blue lights danced across Holloway's face, highlighting the slow, boiling humiliation settling into his features. He wasn't used to this, to being powerless, to being treated like an ordinary citizen. Within moments, backup arrived. Another patrol car screeched to a halt, and a second officer rushed over, weapon drawn. A lieutenant soon followed, his face pale as he took in the situation. He pulled Carter aside, his voice a sharp whisper. "Do you have any idea what you've just done?" Carter met his gaze without hesitation. "I did my job." The words hung in the air, heavier than the night itself. There was no going back now. The news spread like wildfire. The U.S. Attorney General stopped and held at gunpoint by a patrol officer. Holloway, the untouchable, had been brought down, if only for a moment. The very system he controlled had reminded him that no one was above the law. Instant karma had struck.